Welcome back to New York Talk, episode 162. I'm your host, Elyse DeLucci. Welcome to my kitchen. How are you doing? Fact of the day, do you know the world's largest train station? The world's largest. Every city, every country, every continent. Which do you think it is? Did I give you enough time? Grand Central Station, right here in the center of Midtown Manhattan. Can you believe that? I was shocked to read this. It's the world's largest by the number of platforms, the area, the number of tracks, 67, 44 platforms, and the fact that it has 750,000 visitors a day. I wasn't surprised with it being the largest based on the number of visitors a day. I mean, hello, we're in the capital of the world, right? Manhattan. But I was surprised that it was the largest tracks and platforms and all that jazz. I got a great book not too long ago. It was called Things You Don't Know About New York. I don't even know where it came from, to be honest. When I say I got it, that means I got it off my bookshelf, because I don't know if this is something that you do, but I buy books, and once I go into a store, well, let me say this. My favorite bookstore in New York City, if I've never told you, Rizzoli. It is down now. It moved all over the place. It used to be in Midtown. Now it's down on like Broadway in the 20s, and it's fabulous. It's the most amazing bookstore. But when I go to a bookstore like Rizzoli or The Strand or Argosy, another great one in Midtown, which by the by, they have such a story about the building. Let me tell you that in a second. When I get into the bookstore, I pick up the book I'm looking for or a book I like, and then it's like I think I'm a millionaire. I just do a sweep of every other book that I'm interested in, and I buy as many as I could carry. That's not before I usually do a cross-check on Amazon to make sure I'm not being completely ripped off. I like to give business to the independent bookshops. I do. I think it's important. I'm not one of those people, but I am one of those people when it comes to bookstores. They have a certain place in my heart. But what I do is I wind up bringing home these books, and I, put them in my bookshelf, and then I will take a gander every now and then, and I'm like, oh, that looks wonderful. Let me read that. So this, Things I Didn't Know About New York City. Let me see if I can get you the author. Things I didn't know. Yes, I am Googling right as we're on the phone. Hold on. You put that in Google, and like you'd think that here it is on Amazon, $15.50. That's a buy, by Christopher Wynn. I never knew that about New York. That's what it is. It was published in 2014, which probably means I bought it ages ago. A treasure trove of fascinating trivia about the city that never sleeps. Let me tell you something about my bookshelf. It's which I refer to as, if I haven't told you before, my library. It's really a closet with the door off, and I had bookshelves, done. And it's very specific. I don't really read fiction books, and I'm about to tell you about a fiction book, but bear with me. It's sort of divided by category. I have cookbooks. I have a ton of cookbooks. I have a lot of cooking magazines, Cook's Illustrated, Taste of Home, Good Housekeeping, that. I just save them. Sometimes when I would go to Wales with the tooth, if the supermarkets there, Waitrose being one of them, would have little brochures by the door, of recipes and stuff, I would take it. If the recipes looked nice, put it in the bookshelf. Then I have business books, Millionaire Next Door, Warren Buffett's Snowball of Life, or whatever. Essays of Warren Buffett, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's a great one. And then I have tons of self-help books because and then I have lots of New York City books, The Gilded Age of New York. I like this. I never knew that about New York. And I have a lot of biographies. I like to read a lot of biographies. So that's basically my bookshelf. So I took this off and I got this great fact. And the other thing that I did that I'm almost finished on, I bought a book that I we don't really do book talk on this podcast, but I think it's worth reading. John Steinbeck, who wrote Of Mice and Men, we all probably read that in elementary school or high school, whatever. John Steinbeck wrote a book called The Pearl. Do you know it? It's a wonderful book. I'm almost done with it. Let me tell you why it's wonderful. 85 pages. 85 pages, and then you're out. Does that not sound delicious to you? That sounds like the most ideal book. I could finish it in a night, in a week, in a half a week. I started it a couple days ago. I'm halfway through. It's a fiction book. It won a Pulitzer Prize. It's about a young Mexican couple with a small baby that doesn't have any money, and they live in, like a mud hut in their country, and they live in this fishing village. And basically all of the men in the fishing village, they get up every morning and they go try to hunt for fish, but also they look for a pearl, because if they find a pearl, they believe, as we all would, it could bring them money and wealth and happiness and realize a lot of their dreams. And the book is about what happens if you do find that pearl. Is the money and the notoriety and the fame worth it? And I love this book. I'm gonna start giving this book out. Well, hopefully it ends well. TBH. I'm gonna start giving this out as gifts, because one, it's short, like I said, and I love that. But two, in a time where we are constantly consuming all this junk, social media, all this garbage, reality TV, I think it's so nice to go take a step back and read like a classic. I didn't really know this was any classic. I'm not too big to anything to admit that, right? Like, what the hell do I know? To be honest, I probably found it on Amazon. It probably got a zillion reviews, or I probably read it in an article somewhere, and I was like, okay, add to cart. And it was probably $6, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And while I like to think, I'm going to start this whole classics time of my life, I'm not going to do that. I'm too busy. I'm too overtaxed. I don't have time for that. But I do think it's really nice to take a beat and to take a little literary vacation on a Pulitzer Prize winning classic, particularly one that's so short and has such a powerful message. And speaking of that, okay, there was an article that the Surgeon General said that he wants to treat social media like we treat tobacco companies, okay? It was an op-ed published in the New York Times. I think it was a brilliant article. When you buy a pack of cigarettes or alcohol, whatever, there's warning labels all over the whole thing, and if you go to certain countries or whatever, the warning labels on cigarettes are just, they show basically death on the label, That doesn't sometimes make me stop having a little innocent cigarette if I'm out for a cocktail or a coffee, which I need to not do. I don't even know why I do this. Actually, I do. I smoked on and off in my 20s because, didn't you? And, socially, it was a thing. I was on Wall Street, happy hour, you get it. And I have this friend, I'm not naming her because I would never do that. And she's this crazy hardcore smoker. And I would go out with her, if we're doing a spot or whatever, and, stand up. And if we've got a cocktail after or, a coffee, decaf for me at night, she would be blowing smoke in my face. And I was like, please, I haven't smoked in over a decade. And, and then one thing led to another. Just have one. And next thing I know, mommy has, a cappuccino somewhere. And socially, I'm like, if somebody pulls out a cigarette, I'm like, oh my God, I know you're listening to this. And you're like, is she so stupid? And no, I'm not. And listen, I am very hard on myself. I need to not be that way. But I don't like that. So moving on. Anywho, the government 60 years ago, right, in this op-ed New York Times, the government 60 years ago put the labels on the cigarette packs. Here's the stats. Back then, 42% of U.S. adults were smoking cigarettes. By now, 2021, that has fallen to 11%. It worked, but as obviously, there's all the other things that came into play with that. What came into play, I don't know, maybe restaurants and bars and parks. Do you remember when you would be able to smoke in a restaurant? It would be like this. You'd walk in, you'd host, and the host would be like, would you like smoking or non-smoking? And they're like right next to each other, like we're all tainted, you know? But anyway, that definitely, in my opinion, took part in why cigarette usage went down. You basically can't smoke anywhere. But the Surgeon General is saying that we should put the same restrictions on social media for children and teenagers because the mental health crisis is something I 100% agree with. I am not somebody that ever comes on the pod, as you know, and talks about, mega serious issues. I don't need to. Like someone said to me, what's your opinion on the election? I said, I'm not going to talk about that. I said, that's like, I'm just not going there. I'm not. Like, do I have an opinion? Yes. Am I talking about it? No. Why? Because I like to keep it light. But when it comes to social media and kids, I'm upset about it. I'm very upset about it. There was a study done in 2019 that they talked about in the article that they found that children are consuming more than 3 hours a day of social media, and they feel worse about their bodies, other things that make them feel worse coming from social media. They feel socially isolated. They feel more economic hardship. They feel racism is very prevalent when they see this stuff on social media, probably because it is. They see the opioid crisis and school shootings. And of course, this is going to affect a young child. But more importantly than all of these things is we don't know what are the long-term effects of these young girls consuming these junky videos on YouTube and on TikTok and whatever. And when they're babies and they're watching, those freakish videos of people playing with Barbies or whatever, or dolls, because like my kids, used to like to watch them. I mean, look, sometimes me and the Tooth, we'd be at a restaurant, we'd be at the diner, and we want to have a freaking break. And sometimes we would bring iPads. We weren't those parents that would always put up the iPads, but sometimes we would bring an iPad and we would put on, Coco Melon. I was going to say Zoobly Zoo. Like that's at least that hasn't been a thing for 30 years. We'd let them watch their shows. And sometimes we had ABC Mouse or these other little programs that I think you would access through YouTube, if I remember. And I don't know how much we paid attention to what they were pushing, right? So they got primed very young to obviously use iPads and phones and the whole thing. We know this. This is nothing new. My kids, I remember I once gave them a magazine and they tried to swipe it like that, and they would too. But the fact of the matter is we need to not only be so concerned about our mental health. Obviously, we need to be concerned about the kids' mental health. And there was an article that I read years ago on NBC News website, and it was about a mother whose teenage daughter had committed suicide, and she, after the poor girl passed away, the mother went through her social media, and she found on her YouTube archived videos of, how to kill yourself. And I don't remember the details of why the girl did. Maybe it was bullying. I mean, who knows, right? Like bullying, whatever, who knows. But the fact is that children have access to this. I was just out for Priscilla's husband's 40th birthday last weekend, and me, Stephanie, and her husband, Danny, was standing around right at the bar, and we're having a conversation, and we were talking just about this very thing, about kids and social media. And I was saying, well, I wasn't talking about this dog stuff. I was saying, well, what about like sexy time? These kids, they're seeing things on social media that they shouldn't be seeing at these little ages, and it's ruining their innocence. It's horrible. No one knows what to do. Tooth and I, we have restrictions that we do in an hour a day, right? We have them in all activities. They do their homework. They have a babysitter after school because obviously, we're busy working and stuff. But they're playing games online, as we know, with their friends, Roblox and whatnot. And I can't sit next to my daughters 24/7 when they're playing these games with their friends. So how do I know that they're not playing the game and then obviously opening another tab and doing whatever they're watching and reading and whatever? It's just scary. So I totally agree. And apparently in the Times article that America's doctors, like these top doctors, they want this restriction. But is it going to happen? Is it not? Is the big question, and it really keeps me up at night. I don't even want to think about it because it honestly, I have tears in my eyes right now. It's just a hard thing to think about. If I was had major influence, and I was somebody that wanted to advocate change, and I had that power to do that. Like with celebrities, for example, one of the first things I would do, I would try to get through to the Kim Kardashians of the world, right? And I mean, those girls, look, I like them. I think that they, how they came about, that's one thing, okay? With the tape and the whole thing. What people say about them, that's one thing also. But they seem to be a tight-knit family. I love family. I love all that stuff. I like them for that kind of thing. But all of this posing in front of $500,000 cars, phantom Rolls Royces, holding, $40,000 pocketbooks. It's like, are you effing kidding me right now? That there are tons of girls, hundreds of thousands and millions of girls and boys that look at you as a role model. And, Kim went to law school. That's amazing. That's great. Chloe looks like she's a great mom. That's amazing. I get it. But please, who does a great job of this? Selena Gomez. Shout out to Selena Gomez with her rare beauty. And she came out with her mental health stuff. Same thing. Demi Lovato is similar to that. But I think that these big celebrities could use their platform to talk about, I don't know, these social media restrictions or the impact of social media, or just, I don't know, maybe not show all of this effing mishigas, this money and this stuff. Maybe it would make these kids feel less bad about themselves. Just a thought. It'd have to be done in such a real way, and they'd have to really think that this was a good message to put out there, right? There's a lot of semantics, but when you get down to it and you get down to managers and agents and money and who pays who to promote whatever on their social, forget it. It's a whole thing. It's never been a surprise that the rich and famous Hollywood live very glamorously. They have tons of money. This is age old, but back in the day, it was cloaked. It was behind hedges, right? Hedges and gates. We only saw it in the magazines, in the movies and whatever. Now it's in your pocket. It's a whole thing. And I don't know. Sometimes I think about this and I say, wait, am I being ridiculous? Am I thinking that, am I reacting the same way as kids in social media, as parents of the 70s and 80s reacted to television? Remember TV back in the day? Your mother would be like, don't sit so close to the TV. It's going to burn your eyes out or something. I don't think so. I think it's completely different things. Anyway, moving on. I'm in a Japanese phase right now. Well, let me tell you something. The tamagoyaki I have been making, which is a Japanese rolled omelet. I don't think I talked about this last week. I swear I hope I didn't, because I would be losing it. But no, I've been making this nice Japanese omelet. It's just like a regular omelet, but it's rolled up, and you just take, it's the easiest thing, 3 eggs, pinch of salt, pinch of pepper, and a pinch of sugar, and you roll it as you cook it. Google the recipe. They're all over the place, but my product of the day is a tamagoyaki pan. I ordered one. If you put in Amazon, tamagoyaki, it's tamagoyaka. They cook them, the Japanese people cook them in a square pan, and when you start the process, you grease the pan with a pastry brush or a paper towel. I use a paper towel, can't be bothered. And you pour a little of this egg mixture in this square pan, just a little, like a third of the egg mixture. Let it cook in a thin layer, and then you take a spatula or cooking chopsticks that they use, and you slightly roll it just over, like roll it like over each other, right? Like just make a roll, like you're rolling up a carpet, right? And then once it's in a roll, you kind of push it off to one side, put another layer of egg down, and then you roll the previously rolled section of egg on top of the new rolled out cooked through portion of the egg, and you repeat until all the egg is cooked through. So I got this tamagoyaki pan, and it's adorable because I got a pink one, and it's the one I got. There's a 5-inch version or a 6-inch. It's very small. I got the 6-inch. At first I got the 5 and I returned it. I got the 6-inch version, very small. Comes with a little silicone pastry brush, little silicone spatula. Haven't used it yet. It's in the dishwasher as I speak. I'm going to use it. I like the tamagoyaki. It tastes just like our eggs, but because they put sugar in it, it has a sweet taste to it, which is different. And you could put things in this omelet. You could put, spinach and mushrooms or whatever, a little cheese or something, but just the egg. The Japanese people eat this, they'll eat it for breakfast, whatever, but traditionally they make it and they will cut it. Once it's done and it's in this log shape, you take it out of the pan and it's in this log shape, they'll cut it right in like almost coins, and they'll put it inside a bento box for a child for lunch or whatever. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the dolls to eat eggs with their school lunch, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to make them their new Japanese omelets when they come home. They've been gone with the tooth now for 2 weeks in camp. Oh my God, day camp, but it's just been so upsetting for me, like not being with them for 2 weeks. So I'm keeping busy. And of course, one of the things I am doing is making these Japanese omelets. So product of the day is the tamagoyaki pan. It costs $19.99. I don't have hold on, let me see. I should have the pan that I bought in front of me written down, because I usually am more organized than that, but I'm not. You know why? Because my dolls aren't home and I'm like all out of sorts. So, okay, here it is. Rock Your Wok. That's the name of it. It's literally rock, R-O-C-K, your, U-R-W-O-K. If you type in pink tamagoyaki pan, it'll come up. It's 7 inches by 6 inches. So it's small, it's adorable, and it has little stars inside it. It's non-stick, and it's great. And here's the thing. I have, what do I have? I have an all-clad pot set. Copper core, absolutely love it. I have a few non-stick pans. I think they're also all-clad. I've had them since I got married. I'm not somebody that usually buys pots and pans like on the fly. I like everything to be uniform. I don't want unnecessary pieces. But I tried making this omelet in the round non-stick, and you could do it, but it doesn't come as tightly rolled. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get this. That's what I'm doing. Okay. That's it. That is it for today. I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe we'll lessen the time on some of the pods because we're all busy. I don't know. How long is this going for? 25 minutes. That's a good time. Probably next week, what I'm going to talk to you about, which I probably would have talked to you about this week, isn't this ridiculous that I'm saying this to you, is that I'm dying to bake bread. I'm dying to bake bread. I have the bread machine, but I'm not doing that, because I was on keto and I'm on the break. But like, I know, and you're going to put your oven on in the summer. Everything about this is insane. Undo keto. Don't do it. I know. The crowd roars. Second, put your oven on in the summer in an apartment. You're nuts. I know. Totally nuts. But I have an old Cooks Illustrated magazine that I found, while I was shopping on my bookshelf, shopping in my library, for like the best bread recipes ever, whatever. And I was like, I need to have a little gander at that this week. Anyway, quote of the day by Duke Ellington, who has an interesting story. I recommended reading up on it if you don't know it. A problem is a chance for you to do your best. A problem is a chance for you to do your best. We should all think that about problems instead of blowing up our friends' phones and, whatever, complaining to them. But I agree with that at its core. Anyway, I'm Elyse DeLucci. This is episode 162. Love to love you, baby.